When you look at the dragons, what do you see?
What? You haven't spoken a word to me since Mother's funeral. And now you've seen your Kingsguard down.
Answer me. There's nothing in the world more powerful than a good story. Nothing can stop it. No enemy can defeat it. And who has a better story than Bran the Broken?
With the recent conclusion of Season 2 of House of the Dragon, we here at Screenscope believe it's safe to say that a view is beginning to form among audiences and critics alike, agreeing that this is an excellent piece of prestige TV in the vein of early Game of Thrones. It looks like House of the Dragon has reignited the flame that the late Game of Thrones lost towards the end, and not just because the show boasts more fire-breathing dragons. In today's video, we will compare House of the Dragon with the latter seasons of Game of Thrones, taking a look at how this series managed to snatch a fire-breathing victory from the ashes of the once-thought defeated franchise. Let's first compare the storytelling and pacing. One of the major gripes with the late Game of Thrones was that it frequently felt very rushed compared to earlier seasons. A chief example is Daenerys Targaryen's descent into madness. Having been slowly built up as an iconic and heroic liberator, a breaker of chains with a strong moral compass, her sudden heel turn in the final season, burning innocent civilians in King's Landing, left audiences understandably disconcerted. This shift felt unearned and hurried. The Night King and the Battle of Winterfell were also major issues in the final season. Audiences were excited to see the show's protagonists face off against a looming threat for so many seasons. However, this much-hyped villain being dispatched in a single episode felt very rushed. Let's contrast this with House of the Dragon, where the series takes its time to build political intrigue, reminiscent of the earlier seasons of Game of Thrones. For instance, the tensions between Rhaenyra and Alicent developed gradually, with each episode adding layers to their rivalry and the stakes involved. When we factor in the fact that the main Game of Thrones show's source material, A Song of Ice and Fire, is 5 long novels, with hopefully 2 more in the pipeline, compared with House of the Dragon's source material, which is only a few dozen pages within the book, A Dance of Dragons, we can begin to see a dynamic at play here. Game of Thrones had to focus on taking pieces out of a grand and sprawling story, whereas the team behind the House of the Dragon found themselves able to enhance and enrich a short story. Perhaps this, in part, informs the results regarding pacing we see on the silver screen. Character development is an area of particular contrast between the two shows. In Game of Thrones, Jaime Lannister initially goes through a compelling character development in the early seasons, from an arrogant, unlikable man capable of pushing a child out of a tower to cover up his incestuous relationship with his sister, to a morally complex and increasingly more honourable figure. This change is highlighted by his relationship with Brienne of Tarth, as well as the revelation that the Kingslayer was actually justified in killing a mad king that would have burnt down the city of King's Landing. This all falls apart in the final season, however, when he suddenly abandons his relationship with Brienne and returns to Cersei, negating much of his previous growth. Compare this to House of the Dragon, where Rhaenyra's character arc is carefully crafted, with different actresses portraying different periods in her life. She begins as a free-spirited princess, and the groundwork is done to establish her close bond with her father, the King Viserys. When named heir to the Iron Throne, Rhaenyra's sense of duty and ambition began to grow, whilst she increasingly faces the challenges of being a female heir in a male-dominated society. As the show progresses, Rhaenyra is tested through political machinations and personal betrayals, particularly from her former friend Alicent Hightower. Her evolution into a strong, politically savvy leader is gradual and well developed. Building on this, Rhaenyra's relationship, especially with Daemon Targaryen and her own children, showcase her multifaceted personality and growth as both a ruler and a mother, making for engaging character development. Her relationships, ambitions, and personal growth are explored in depth, making her journey compelling and relatable.
I published a 5th book in 2011 when the series was just going on the air, so I was like 5 books ahead. I was completely confident that I would have the entire series finished.
The divergence of the Game of Thrones series in the later seasons from George R.R. Martin's unfinished books serves to further highlight how the show falls short by the end. In the books, Jon Snow's parentage and the prophecy of Aza Ahai, the prophesized hero, are significant plot points that are heavily foreshadowed. The show reveals Jon as a Targaryen, but doesn't fully explore the prophecy implications. This divergence leaves many book fans feeling that a crucial narrative thread was unresolved. George R.R. Martin's books provide a rich lore around the White Walkers, with hints of deeper mythology. The show, however, wraps up the White Walker storyline quickly, with Arya Stark killing the Night King in a single episode. This resolution felt anticlimactic to many fans who expected a more complex conclusion in line with the book's lore. House of the Dragon follows the source's material more faithfully, with the show faithfully depicting the Targaryen succession crisis that leads to the Dance of the Dragons. Rhaenyra Targaryen is named heir by her father, King Viserys I, which mirrors the central conflict in the book. Although the ages of several of the characters are changed, particularly Alicent Hightower being aged down to be a former friend to Rhaenyra as opposed to an older stepmother figure, the essence of the conflict is preserved, and the ensuing tensions and factions forming around Rhaenyra and Alicent Hightower's children are closely aligned with the source material. The scope of the disappointment in the final season of Game of Thrones is encapsulated in the fan and critical reaction. Over 1.8 million fans signed a petition demanding a remake of Season 8, citing poor writing and character arcs. Social media was also flooded with memes and critiques mocking the final season's perceived flaws. Season 8 holds a 55% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes, indicating mixed to average views. Critics pointed out the rushed pacing and unsatisfactory conclusions to major storylines. This is in contrast to House of the Dragon, which holds an 85% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes for its first season, reflecting strong critical acclaim. Reviews often highlighting the strong performances, particularly from the lead actors. House of the Dragon succeeds where the latter season of Game of Thrones failed by returning to the intricate storytelling, gradual character development, and faithful adherence to the source material that originally captivated audiences. By carefully pacing the narrative and exploring complex political and personal dynamics, House of the Dragon has reinvigorated the rich world of Westeros. This commitment to depth and authenticity has earned both critical acclaim and fan approval, reminding us why we fell in love with this universe in the first place. If you enjoyed this analysis, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to Screenscope for more insights into your favourite shows. Thank you for watching.